Hello and welcome everyone. This is Taco Movie Talks, and I am joined today by our guest host, Ethan from Film Junkie. And if you watched last week or if you're just joining us, we will be covering a very famous director by the name of Yosujiro Ozu, and the two films in particular for this week are Tokyo Story and Tokyo Twilight. Um, I want to thank you, Ethan, for joining and encourage everyone to check out his channel for his two short films that he has on his channel.
Oh, thank you for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. You are definitely one of the best guests we've had on. Everyone's been great, but to be able to have you on for the third time now is really awesome, and I
I think
appreciate
it's
you.
fourth.
Oh yeah, we
It's
did
fourth, yeah.
we did Kubrick, we did horror. What was our third episode?
Bergman.
Oh yeah, how could I forget? Yeah, this is the fourth
Yeah.
episode. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So and now Yosujiro Ozu. But I don't know about you, but we were talking a bit earlier, and you had mentioned dimensions of dialogue in the director's name. I'm not even going to try to pronounce.
Oh, Jan Schwankmeyer.
Yes. And it is, as you described in the previous video, it's three short stories. They all seem to share a link, and it's all stop motion. And I watched it this week, and it is really impressive what they were able to
Yeah.
do as far as stop motion. It was
hmm
tremendous, and I wanted to talk about it because I think I might have taken. I think for sure the main theme is about how miscommunications can happen. Um,
Yeah.
I think one of the themes that I was coming away with, and by the way, for anyone who wants to check it out, I will put it in the description below. And also be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel. We're close to 50. And also be sure to go to Ethan's channel because he does very great work himself. And be sure to give him likes and subscriptions as well, because that would very much be appreciated. But it seemed like there was something about how miscommunications happen, and I think, and let me know if this resonates with you at all, but maybe a yearning for us wanting people to kind of have the same perspectives that we do. We try to influence people to be more like ourselves, especially when we're talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking about the first short? The first little story
Yeah,
that influence?
I
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's yeah, interesting.
and it how it I guess we are maybe most. I don't know. It seems like it introduces two sides to the argument. Um, and I'm wondering, like, do we become? Is he trying to say we become more human when we've experienced a number of different things and we're not so isolated to just our corner of the world? Or is he
Yeah.
saying um we kind of lose our individuality from society?
Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely go both ways with that. Influence makes us more human, but sometimes influence can also um, lose our individuality. It can also have us like our individuality could be lost.
Yeah.
So you could interpret it both ways. It's praising influence, but it's also kind of criticizing influence, and it's definitely for a 12-minute I think it's no. Is it 12 minutes?
I think,
I
yeah,
don't remember.
I think it's like 11 minutes and like 40 seconds. So yeah,
Yeah,
just
the
about.
entire short is 11 minutes. Yeah, the entire short is like about 11 minutes, 12 minutes. And what Schronkmeyer manages to do in those 12 minutes without any dialogue
Hmm.
is crazy.
Yeah, that you're right. There is absolutely no dialogue, but like that is you're dead on the money. It's insane to think how much can be evoked with no dialogue, no actual people. It's all stop motion. They're representing humans, but it says a lot. And I think a mark of a really good director or more thought provoking themes is when you can introduce both sides and allow people to kind of take one side and run with it, whichever I guess you know is speaks to their upbringing more.
Yeah,
I definitely I liked the second short. The third short, I honestly that was the one where I'm not sure what exactly they were. I know, it was definitely about um, having children and I don't know, did you feel like it was kind of like that added stress of a child kind of tearing them apart?
yeah. How the the intimacy is lost when you're when you bring something new into the world, when you're given a new responsibility and you don't want it, it creates problems. I
Mhm.
think that's what he was trying to go for.
Yeah.
It's
That
definitely the least interesting of the three. I love the third story though. I love it.
is that the one with, like, the pencil sharpener and
Yeah,
the
the two heads. The two
yeah.
heads.
That one was neat, and I know you went over this, but, um, that's just purely miscommunication, you think, or is it how w sometimes we'll say something and we'll hear it kinda differently than like, what the message they're trying to get across is?
Yeah, I feel like it has something to do with trying to understand and complement one another when it comes to um, uh, communicating, of course.
Mhm.
When it comes to communicating, it's about how you complement one statement with another. Um, but sometimes we kind of miss the mark on that, and so it feels, and so it becomes like a tiring situation. As by the end, they become like super tired and like
Mhm.
worn out.
Yeah. That was like the really cool touch was because the all of these objects are coming from heads, like out of their mouth, to I guess
Yeah,
directly represent speech. But their heads get more and more strained as they make mistakes trying to complement one
yeah,
another.
yeah. It's presenting an idea, a relatable theme in the world in a very entertaining way, which
Yes.
is and this is a good point to start off on before we piss a lot of people off.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. Um, so I guess before we dive into the two movies, um, was there? I guess there's certain things that Ozu is certainly very good at. I think his cinematography is very good. Technical aspects of his film are good, and I think his ability to portray family dramas and emotions are probably what he's known for in his strong suits.
Yes, yes. He is known for portraying um, family themes and dynamics in the most realistic way possible.
Mhm.
And I think for a lot of people, that makes it very interesting. But what I don't, what is so? I think we both agree that Ozu, while we deeply respect him, we don't really like him that much as a filmmaker.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would need a pretty strong recommendation to, and I think he's someone I'll continue to, just on a slower pace than most, continue to
yeah,
check out his work. Um,
yeah.
did you like? Have you seen much of his later stuff? Because like, without getting too deep into it, I liked Tokyo Story more, or no, I like Tokyo Twilight more than Tokyo Story, and I wondered, like,
Yeah.
if he kind of, I guess, evolved in a way from what you've seen.
I think that so Ozu's definitely he was even after even when he made Tokyo Story, he was kind of seen as a veteran
Okay.
in the film world. I believe he started in the silent era of
Mm,
films,
wow.
and so even up until I think his big breakout movie was Late Spring, which is
Okay.
also beloved. But we're probably going to talk about his widely regarded as his most beloved movie, Tokyo Story. Um, but um, I think in his final years, I think he got more interesting. But what I don't like about him is the way he presents his films and his themes. Um, and we obviously talked about Ingmar Bergman
Mhm.
uh, last time, and I think he is way better and way more interesting at getting those themes out.
Yes.
His themes are a bit different, but like there are like family dynamics in some of his movies.
Mhm.
And another thing is that he's really good at presenting those themes, but he does it a lot, and he does a lot of the same thing.
Mhm.
The aforementioned Late Spring, uh, and then his final film, An Autumn Afternoon. They're basically the same movie. It feels like.
The Igmar Bergman comparison, I very much like, because, like you said, and I have very limited experience to Ozu. These are actually the first two films of his that I've seen, but you can pick up on trends. You can pick up on themes with him, and he'll tell very similar stories, just slightly differently, from
Yeah,
these two. And Igmar, he does have some broadness to the themes he likes to evoke. Uh, Certainly, family dramas, religion is big with him. Um,
yeah,
I guess, well, the family, like, parenthood trauma, but he is able to do it in a way where two films, I guess, the method in which he presents the themes are different enough to where you don't feel like you're watching the same movie.
yeah. Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah, during his like early, not early years, but sort of in the 50s, when he was doing like the Seventh Seal and all that, he tackled the major theme that he tackled was God's silence. But with each and every he did that with multiple movies. But with each and every one of those movies, they feel like they're communicated in different ways.
mhm. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's a good point to leave it, and now we can go into Tokyo Story. Um, I
Yeah,
can summarize this one uh, pretty simply, I believe. There are
yeah,
two parents go to visit their children and, not daughter-in-law in Tokyo, and they they don't have the best trip. It's not, the most terrible trip ever, but they don't get to spend so much time with their kids. They kind of get pawned off. They seem to form a larger attachment with the daughter-in-law. On their way home, they stop because of a medical emergency with the mother, who then passes away. The family joins them. Did they end up taking the body to the parents' home at the end? Or did
I
they
think
s
so, maybe.
that I thought they did, but, they either I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they went all the way home with the body to have, like, the funeral, and, we kind of get
Mhm.
more of the children's attitudes and behaviors, and then it, fades to black after the daughter-in-law gets maybe the prized possession of the mother. It was the most sentimental piece that could be given, and it's a I think an effective family drama, but um, I'm not sure what I wanted from it for an early '50s film. It was pretty good, but what were your initial thoughts on Tokyo Story?
So Tokyo Story was the first Ozu movie I had watched. I heard so many amazing things about it. It was like one of the best, movies from Japan. People absolutely adored it. It's like a critical masterpiece. And this is like about 2 years ago. So I was like at the start of my film journey, and I did not understand what was so good about it.
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting, but I didn't understand what made it so good. So I held off Ozu for a while. I watched a couple more Ozu movies afterwards, including Twilight, which we'll talk about.
Mhm.
But revisiting Tokyo Story a couple years later, it only confirmed my feelings about what I don't. In fact, I think I'm confirmed on my what I don't like about Ozu is that Tokyo Story is a very interesting and relatable story told in the most uninteresting way.
I yeah, I definitely felt that as well. Uh
Yeah.
so here's a thought that I think would be worth delving into. I know you're a big fan of Akira Kurosawa,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
some people consider I think, and this is true when they were like actually making their films, and the sentiment might have changed over time. But Ozu, I think, was considered like this was a director for Japan. And I think people felt like Kurosawa was trying to present a product that was more palatable to the West, and even kind of rubbed people in Japan the wrong way for that. And my thought was because there's a bit of blandness to the characters despite unveiling the complex nature of their emotions that Ozu has in my eyes that Kurosawa never had. I felt like the characters were very dense and very fleshed out in Kurosawa. And I wonder if that is a reality or me just projecting.
I feel that Kurosawa's films as a whole are definitely way more fleshed out
Mhm.
and like as stories and as pieces of art. I think they're so much more fleshed out and interesting than Ozu's movies ever were. There's another Japanese filmmaker that I want to bring up because he's another one that's considered one of the greats.
Mhm.
He was working around the time that Ozu was at his heights of popularity. His name is Kenji Mizoguchi. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I haven't. What are
So
some of his films that I might have heard of?
he makes a couple of dramas as well. Obviously, there's people like Masaki Kobayashi who did Harakiri and the Human Condition trilogy and
Mhm.
Kwaidan. He's an amazing filmmaker as well. Harakiri is one of the best films ever made. Um, but with Mizoguchi, I definitely put him more in that camp with Ozu, in that he makes really um, pensive dramas
Mhm.
that are very harrowing and have very harrowing themes. But Mizoguchi again presents it in the most interesting way. I think his best movie to this day is a movie called Sancho the Bailiff. It is
Oh, okay. I have that on my watch list.
it is about a brother and a sister who are taken into a labor camp run by the vicious titular character Sancho the Bailiff, and it's a harrowing journey about them and their attempt at escape. And it is one of the best movies ever made as well. I highly recommend you guys check it out. It's an amazing movie because it is slow and it is kind of realistic, but he presents it in such an interesting fashion. He presents his themes with such interesting fashion of labor. It's a super relatable concept as well.
Yeah, and that is kind of like that is one of the hard things about Ozu and this movie and the next movie is that there is definitely a relatable nature. Like and I feel bad too. It's like I put myself in their
Yeah.
shoes, and I'm like, I would never want to treat my parents like this. Um,
Yeah.
I think those are really strong themes in Japanese culture where you're kind of as a son especially, you're kind of expected to serve your father like after they've retired, and that is kind of
Yeah.
you take care of them. But am trying to pinpoint and really put my finger on why it's not it, you're like you said, the interest is just fleeting in both of these films.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have vastly different feelings on both of these movies, actually.
Mhm.
Um, because I have seen about six Ozu movies, and this Tokyo Story is my least favorite of all of those movies.
Mhm.
And Tokyo Twilight is my favorite, and is the only one in Ozu's entire filmography that I've seen so far that I'd call a masterpiece.
Mhm.
But we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Tokyo Story is just it's different from something like Late Spring or An Autumn Afternoon, but it's just boring. It's boring, man. I hate to use that word, but it's not interesting to me. Um,
Yeah.
have you ever heard of Jean Dielman?
I don't believe I have.
All right, so this is a film from the 70s. I know I'm bringing up a lot of different movies because I don't know what else to say about Tokyo Story, but compare them to other movies. But um, there's this movie by a filmmaker named Chantal Ackerman, a filmmaker from the 70s. She passed away in 2015, unfortunately. And she made a movie called John Diehlmann, which is her most famous movie. It's that's not the full title, but it's about a widowed housewife who we follow her daily life, and they it presents daily life in a very realistic fashion, which is fine, and people love that movie a lot, but it is boring. I mean, it lulls you to sleep. It's literally just following her doing chores around the house.
Oh, wait a minute. Um, I think you said, it's a 4-hour movie, correct?
It's like 3.5 hours. Yeah,
Okay. And she does chores a lot. That's like a big
yeah,
okay. I
until the
actually
very end.
a Bavarian film.
Yeah.
I heard of that. I think you've listened to the Sardana cast before, right?
Yes, they did a review on it.
I heard them talk about that film. Yes. That is where I
Yeah,
heard about it. Yeah, it's there's something to, you know, making it so realistic that I think works. But real life
so,
can be boring, you know?
yeah, definitely.
But I like um Autumn Sonata, which was a movie that you had recommended, and I
Yes,
finally went out and watched it. And like when you look at the scope of what they cover, it's really the most compelling points are when the daughter is talking to her mother. And on the
yeah.
face of it, that's not the most interesting thing you could ever do, but it is just
It's gripping. It's
exactly.
gripping. It's harrowing. It's it, it it's how to make a family drama. Bergman is so good at that. He's so good at taking the most like mundane, it's what seemingly is the most mundane situations and um like making them into the most gripping things in cinema history.
Mhm. So
Um,
I think that I guess that's kind of where it comes down, where there's many different buckets, and I think I have learned that it's like those subversive, cerebral films that like you are really challenged by are more the type that I like, you know?
yeah,
And this is not, or maybe for the time period it was more, something to grapple with, but it's so palatable, the ideas that it gets across, that you get them so quickly, and it leaves you like, okay, well, like what's the next beat, what's the next theme we're going to get into, but it sticks on it very long.
yeah, definitely.
This is maybe the part that I don't know what you rated it. I'm not sure if you know what I rated it. Um,
Hmm.
I gave it for the and this is something I want to ask you, because I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I gave it 3.5 stars, which isn't nearly as low as probably what my criticisms were. But the reason I went with it was because I think a cinematography perspective, it is superbly executed. Um,
Yes,
and like literally storytelling, it while it's very much substance over style in my mind. It's like
yeah,
it gets all the beats right. It tells the story. There's it doesn't leave any important details out. It's like if you were telling a story in great detail, this is the cinematic equivalent to that, where you don't have to make any jumps to like, okay, well, how did we get from this point to this point? It tells it brilliantly, or very effectively, and it's very realistic too. There are
yeah,
certain aspects where if that is what if those three, if you like that, I think you would give this a 5 out of 5.
yeah, definitely.
What would you rate this?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Ozu definitely handles his themes about family better than most. And you're right, some of the shots in this movie are just excellent. They're so beautiful to look at. Um, but for all that, I deeply respect him for what he did. But in terms of like how to make a movie, I think the best movies are the ones that have both style and substance.
Mhm.
They have on the surface they're extremely interesting and gripping movies, but they also have themes underneath that you could delve into.
Mhm.
And Ozu has substance in his themes, and that's really it.
Mhm.
And I deeply respect Tokyo Story, but I don't like the film very much, and so I I was struggling on what rating to give it, but after some deliberation and the fact that my second watch only confirmed my feelings on it, I think I'm gonna go even lower than you. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah. Um, I was wrestling with rating it the same. Because like from an entertainment perspective, I this is an average film for sure.
Yeah.
I guess just like technically, that's I tried to be objective in that realm and bump it up for there. But would it be a movie I would recommend? I would have to. I'd like to the majority of people know. I don't think
Hmm.
the majority of people would like this. I think if they're like, I love family dramas and I like a very like slowly paced movie, I would say yeah, this is definitely something you'll love. But yeah,
Hmm.
it pacing wise, it's I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of
I
mis
wouldn't I wouldn't say the pacing is the problem for me personally.
just the amount of things going on.
Just what um the way Ozu tell the family dynamics are interesting from a substance perspective, but on the surface they are not interesting at all.
Hmm.
I think everybody's way too happy all the time in
Yes.
his movies, especially late spring. I mean, oh my god. It feels like everybody's smiling all the time and it's so annoying.
For your, do you think if they would have tried to dig deeper with the characters, that could have made this more interesting?
Yeah,
Or
I mean if they talked about more of their lives, I'd say,
mhm. Yeah,
perhaps.
I think the children, if they would have, I don't even know, because there's aspect they do kind of go into their backstory. Um, yeah, I don't know how you would make this better, you know?
Yeah.
It's it's just it is what it is, but, yeah, 3.5 from me. Ethan, you said 3. I
Yeah, 3.
completely understand because I was, like, very much, um, going back and forth between 3 and 3.5, and,
Yeah.
I would love to hear if anyone is a big fan and we didn't kind of cover, I think, where the appreciation would lie. I would love to hear people explain what they love about Ozu. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
because it feels like it in a way it's a bit maybe dated, and I don't like to use that, but I I think that could be part of why it's lacking. It not from like a
Yeah.
cinematography perspective, but I guess just um, the interest of everything.
Yeah.
Would you like to describe Tokyo Twilight?
Yeah. So Tokyo Twilight. was released 4 years after Tokyo Story in 1957. It is about two sisters who live with their father, and they discover that their long lost mother, who abandoned them many years ago, has come back to the same city, and it's those two sisters trying to come to terms with not only stuff in their individual lives, but also come to terms with what their mother did to them and how to remedy that.
Absolutely. Um, just from the jump, I think I like. Um, there seems to be much more going on with this one.
Hmm.
The youngest daughter is she deals with pregnancy, kind of with a a father figure that she's confused as to like how she lies in his life. Love
Yeah,
interest who seems more intimidated by the responsibility than actually taking on the responsibility, and then
yeah,
enter the mother figure. So there's so much going on with her, and the side characters seem to have their own stuff going on too, which I think made this
yeah,
better.
yeah. This is definitely my favorite Ozu movie for sure.
Hmm.
I uh, I think it's because it's so different, and a lot of my problems with Ozu are remedied in this movie. It is a dark movie. I think this is
Hmm.
definitely the darkest Ozu movie I've seen. Just not only like the characters, because the younger sister is a tragic character, and
Hmm.
the way she goes through her life is just so. It's just it's just really sad, and I thought that was interesting. Finally, after
Yeah.
watching so many, and I'm just like, stop smiling.
Yeah. Whereas there was a little bit of it for me in um the I just forgot the Tokyo Story, where I'm like, I want the characters to take different actions. I felt it even stronger in this. It was much more compelling, where I just wanted to reach out to the youngest daughter and like shake her and say, like, this isn't the path. There are solutions
Yeah,
to these problems, but they all mounted
yeah.
up at the wrong time. And I like the title. While I was watching it, I was like, this would you should just call this sadness, because that was exactly what I felt.
Yeah, it's called Tokyo Twilight. It's like it's a dark movie, not and again, not just in character arcs and like themes, but also in cinematography too. I feel like, and comparatively, I think Ozu decided to like drown this movie in darkness and haze,
Hmm.
and I think that really worked to its benefit.
Yeah. You're dead on, because a lot of the shots are done at nighttime too, and it just feels much darker. And everything, it's like I even in the end, it's like I don't know who this really worked out for. I don't know if there was really the character arc. I don't know if it ever left any of the characters in a better place than when they started.
No, I don't think it worked for anybody. It's just a tragic situation, and I definitely was thinking about what themes that Ozu was trying to communicate, and I definitely found one. He definitely delves into the themes of responsibility
Mm,
and what it means to take care of a human being and how that could drive people away.
yes, and it's like family responsibility very very strongly in this one, because we have
Yeah,
three, or I guess you could
we have
argue
three different. We have
four,
three different. Yeah,
with
four. Yeah,
the
four.
father. both daughters and the mother of the daughters. It's like the choices they've made are I've slightly different, but they all kind of remove themselves from the responsibility that they have in their own minds, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I find they kind of seem to all make the wrong choices too. With the mother of both the daughters leaving Tokyo as opposed to, I think, try to mend things with her original family. Um, and this one is maybe the most arguable, but the oldest daughter going back home and to what seems to be a bad family unit.
Yeah.
The father's choices of trying to handle the younger daughter as she's going through all this turmoil is maybe a bit too um, on the nose or brutal or too rough. And then the youngest daughter, um, I mean, I think it was a suicide attempt. Do you or do you think it was accidental?
I think I think it was accidental. It was something
Okay.
like it reminds me of like Hamlet when like in the face of tragedy it was an accidental tragedy in the face of another tragedy.
Okay. That's a neat way to look at it. Um,
Yeah. Because
it
have you seen Hamlet or read Hamlet?
I might have in high school, but I, being honest with you, don't remember much, if anything, about it.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of the same thing where Hamlet's love interest, she it's ruled as a suicide, but it seems to be accidental.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, certainly the description of it by the the noodle um house, like the server, his description definitely made it seem like a an accident. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure whether that was just his misinterpretation or if that was actually the most accurate description.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it seems she's trying to run away from her problems, and it leads her to her demise, is what it seems.
Yeah.
There
And yeah,
was.
it's just
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no no, it's okay. It yeah, and it's just that decision to make all these characters like in the face of tragedy, they are it seems that like it shows the breakdown of a family and a tragic story that and it's Ozu's decision to just keep piling on those problems is what makes it so interesting.
Yeah, it really push each character to their brink, and that was nice.
Yeah.
I don't know at what point it was. It was as the eldest daughter went to talk to her biological mother and said, "Do me a favor, don't let Akiko, I think it's hard to pronounce for me, but Aikiko,
Yeah.
don't let her know that you're her mother." And it was right around that point where, and I don't know if you had this same feeling, but I thought the mother or the youngest daughter is going to commit suicide, is my thought right after that, because they just seemed both so sad at that juncture in the movie.
I didn't think they were going to commit suicide,
Hmm.
but if they were to ever figure out the identity of each other, which it was gonna lead to a climax
Hmm.
of some sort, which eventually it did. And honestly, we don't know if it was accidental or suicidal.
I think, yeah, like you said, when you bring it up, I can totally see it being accidental, and I think they even kind of throw subtle hints at the train because when they're at the mahjong bar, I think the noodle place is very close to that, but the railroad is shown and you can see all the signs. And what made it stick out was they actually had English about the railways being hazardous, and and then it slipped my mind as we got closer to the climax, but it was kind of cool how it was foreshadowed a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
What were your overall thoughts on this one? I mean, any ending thoughts about this movie?
Um, I think it's definitely Ozu's masterpiece. After watching five or six of them, I definitely think Tokyo Twilight is the best. It takes all of his themes and it puts them in a story that is finally something that is interesting and riveting. And for all those, I think it's kind of a genius masterpiece
Hmm.
for me personally.
Yeah, this one I liked much more than A Tokyo Story. Um, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Um, I like you said, it was able to take a lot of the elements that he's really really good at, and have a plot that is able to fully explore his ideas. I think, and that was what made it
Yeah,
so much better.
yeah.
What would you rate the film?
I would give it a 5 out of 5. It's definitely a it's definitely an amazing movie to me. Because I it was like the biggest exhale ever. It was just finally, thank God, I can finally understand this man.
Yeah.
I can finally understand what makes him so legendary. Um, yeah, it's an amazing movie for sure, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um,
If I were to
but yeah,
recommend an Ozu, this would be it.
yeah, that or going completely on the opposite spectrum, Good Morning, which also deals with family themes, but in a the exact opposite route, a very lighthearted comedic way,
Mm.
and that's also it's very different in that way, and that's what makes it interesting and a much better movie than Tokyo Story, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But
it's like um I guess maybe the best way for Tokyo Story is melancholy without much reprieve in form of, intrigue or I'll just leave it at that, I guess.
yeah, that's a perfect way to put it, actually.
So, for next week, do you have any themes or directors, actors, um, genres, time periods, anything that you would like to recommend for a theme for next episode?
Well, last episode we talked about that list of directors,
Mhm.
and you had me pick between Ozu and Werner Herzog.
Yes.
Would you want to do Werner Herzog?
Oh, absolutely. I love
Alrighty,
Herzog. It'll be
alrighty.
slightly difficult just because so many have been covered so far, but he has a deep, rich filmography. Definitely one of his most well known, I think, is Grizzly Man, and I have yet to cover that. And if that is
Gotcha.
available, I might be choosing that one for sure.
Alrighty. And I don't know what my recommendation will be yet. If you've covered a lot of them, I'll have to look and see. But my recommendation by Herzog will be a surprise then.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. He's he's like one of my one of the people who really attracted me to like the story within the story to like follow the themes and how characters really depict very extreme thoughts that aren't seen very much, and he does some crazy stuff for sure.
Yeah.
I respect it. Like with Fitzcarraldo, he like literally carries a boat over a mountain.
Yeah.
And then there's another film which I might change from Grizzly Man. Well, me and you will talk, but it's called Heart of Glass, and I think all
Oh.
but one actor are acting while under hypnosis,
Whoa.
which is like I don't know why any director would want to do that, but he does it. And it's
Wow.
pretty yeah, definitely he does some insane stuff. But definitely one I'm really looking forward to get to talk about him and talk
Yeah.
about a couple of his movies too.
After the first, I've watched two movies by Herzog so far. Um, and yeah, he seems like one of the most interesting when it comes to like not only his feature works, but his documentarian work. Like you said, Grizzly Man.
Hmm.
He is highly interesting.
That's a cool thing too. Like, how many directors do you know who are both well versed in documentary and features? Um,
I don't know what it is, but it's always the German filmmakers. One of my all-time favorite filmmakers is Wim Wenders, who did a movie called Paris, Texas, which is one of my all-time
oh
favorites.
yeah, I've heard that is very high up on my like list of both directors to check out and that movie in particular.
Yeah, I definitely like to talk about Wim Wenders in the future,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
it though him and Herzog just are nail documentarian work as like features, interesting features.
Yeah. And you could answer this like Herzog is able to I from what I've seen, and I actually have less experience to his documentaries, which I think most people actually are drawn to him through his documentaries first. But he takes the aspects from both feature and documentary and kind of is able to cross over what he does well in both. And do you find that to
Yeah.
be the truth with the director you're talking about as well?
Yes, actually, I definitely agree.
And I guess one last point, like when you watched Ozu from like a camera work perspective, did you find like any um things in particular he did where you're like, I want to try to adopt that with your style?
Um, his cinematography is very mixed for me.
Hmm.
Mostly leaning towards the positive side, I think. Uh, but uh, but when it comes to like conversations, the way he films conversations, some of the shots are just so weird to me. I don't know. It just doesn't. It seems off to me. I don't know. I just didn't really like that.
Hmm.
But when it comes to his landscape shots or shots of like a house, oh my God. Like his house shots are definitely the most inspirational for me in
Hmm.
terms of your question about is there shots of his that I'd like to do? Yeah, his like interior house shots are one that I would love to recreate in some way.
Yes, he's very good at that. And I think I found myself, I guess, like and if I'm using the incorrect term, you correct me, but it's like the framing of the people in the shot. Um,
Yeah.
Akira Kurosawa was like amazing at that, and I think High and Low was one of the films where it's like clear as day how brilliant he is. And
Yeah.
I saw Ozu pulling some of those same like very magical framing um, in the shots.
Yeah, I think High and Low in particular, his shots, uh, Akira Kurosawa's, I think he used a different aspect ratio. He's probably been, I think at the start of the 60s with when he did Yojimbo,
Hmm.
he definitely started using a lot wider aspect ratios to create that really that just beautiful those beautiful landscape shots. I mean, oh my dear Lord, they are amazing.
What is the word to use when it's like the people in the shot, like kind of the way they're facing and like kind of the way they're like lined up? Do you know what I'm trying to say? I probably sound like
I
such an
wouldn't.
idiot.
No, absolutely not. No. I don't know if there's a word for it, but like the angle of where the camera is placed definitely is what creates that. And yeah, the angle of Ozu's shots when it comes to like like frame putting people into frame is just so weird.
Mhm. Like, I guess the point, like with high and low, it's kind of poetry how like all the characters will kind of turn to where the the where he wants your point of focus to be, and kind of using characters to draw your focus to this side or this in particular point of the screen. I think Ozu was able to do. It wasn't as frequent as high and low. Like that is kind of a masterpiece as far as that, but I saw shades of that in this and what is brilliantly
Yeah.
done in high and low.
Yeah, definitely. I in certain like house shots I could see that where like someone coming into frame
Mhm.
in one of those it's a far shot
Mhm.
not it's not extreme far but it's a far away shot and the way people enter the frame and the way it draws your attention to them is very interesting. But when it cuts to like them almost staring at the camera, I'm just like, what?
That is very, yeah, definitely prevalent. And to see, I guess when you do use more style um, within your substance, like if have you ever heard of the phrase the Kubrick stare?
Of course.
He is able to do that, but the way it's used, it feels so much
So
more effective when he does it.
natural. It's so natural.
Mhm.
It's just that he places your attention on a character who is like he's got one face on, but the way you like The Shining, The
Mhm.
Shining is the most prevalent example where like looking at this character, you're like, ooh, you get unsettled. And it's just so it feels so natural the way he does it.
Yes. It feels like you are seeing uh the character without a facade when they're doing that. Like
Yeah,
the way that they're staring through you, you're able to kind of see their true face, which is really
yeah,
neat when he does that, especially with Jack Nicholson. It's like uncanny his ability to do that.
yeah.
Alrighty, I'm really looking forward to Herzog. He's definitely one of the directors that I am I'm really appreciating his work. I hope
Yeah.
you are able to like his stuff too. What are the two movies you've seen so far?
So the first one I watched was Akira the Wrath of God.
Mm,
I watched that. I freaking loved it. It was great. It was a great movie. Um, Have you covered that one already?
Yeah, but
Uh,
if you would want to rewatch that, because my initial rating was, I think, too low. I couldn't quite appreciate what he was doing until I saw more of his work. So we could
yeah.
definitely, I think if you would want to, we could cover that one.
We'll see.
Okay.
The other one that I watched was Land of Silence and Darkness, which is a very early documentary for him about a blind and deaf woman and how she lives with that
Oh,
and the
wow.
community that she created with it. This woman, yeah, it's a very interesting film.
He
Uh,
That's one I still, need to watch.
yeah,
His ability
um,
to find strange and unique subject material is just bananas.
yeah, exactly.
Alrighty, so we got the theme for next week, Werner Herzog. Um, Follow Ethan on Letterbox. Follow me on Letterbox. You'll be able to see the films that we watch for Herzog Week and see our initial thoughts on them. And then also check out Ethan's channel to view his short films. Be sure to give him likes and subscriptions too. I'm sure he would appreciate that. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. I would very much appreciate that. And thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye y'all.